Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 311 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we got the full crew here this week, kicking things off with, actually let's change it up this week. Let's kick it off with Mr. Giggles. Krim, how's it going this week?
Good morning, Seth.
Krim had a very funny 311 joke before the podcast, and that's why we're all giggling. So that was very good, Krim. Maybe you'll get a chance at the conclusion when we say the episode number again to share it with the rest of the audience.
Maybe.
We also have another co-host, the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How's it going this fine Monday, Richard?
Hey, Seth. It is going very well. We have a lot of news to cover. So much news. We're out of the holidays into the fresh Magic New Year, officially.
The cold New Year of Magic, if you would.
The snow New Year.
Yes, it is a snowy winter in the Magic world. Today, it's mostly going to be Kaldheim talk, honestly. We are smack in the middle of spoiler season. We have a ton of Kaldheim cards to talk about, so that's going to be a bulk of the podcast. Also, wanted to briefly mention Arena mobile news that came out this week, and if we got some time, we'll try to answer some fish mail at the end, but mostly Kaldheim spoiler talk for this week. But before we get into that, a quick reminder that our show today is brought to you by Card Conduit. And if y'all have ever tried to sell your Magic cards, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. You gotta sort everything. You gotta type everything. Gotta ship boxes all around the country to a bunch of different vendors. Not a really easy or fun process, but Card Conduit is the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. And if you're looking to avoid all those hassles and all that time, this new service from the folks over at Card Hoarder will sort, grade, and sell your Magic cards for you. And once your shipment is processed, you'll get the proceeds minus their fee. And right now, you can get a 10% discount by heading over to cardconduit.com/goldfish. So thank you so much to Card Conduit for supporting the show today. And let's talk some Magic. Let's talk briefly Arena Mobile, and then we'll spend the rest of the cast on spoilers. So, Richard, we got an announcement a few days ago now. What do we find out about Arena coming to mobile?
It's happening. January 28th, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, they're launching on Android. Just Android. If you have a new Android phone, they list the specs on their website, but basically, we are getting Arena on your phones. Like, we were predicting it'll take them forever, that when they said, Q4, they were really lying. Well, they were actually just a couple days late, and here they are. They're coming out. iOS, so if you own an iPhone, question marks. They said later. I don't know what later means, like Mac later when they said Arena was available, or like 2 months later, not sure. But we are getting mobile with the launch of Kaldheim, right? So 28th, Kaldheim will be out, and then we will be able to play on our phones, and hopefully our phones will not explode.
The day after my birthday, I'll either have to go buy a new phone, or I'll have a sweet new, one way or the other, my phone blows up, or I get to play Arena wherever I go.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously awesome that it's starting to come to mobile. I'm a little disappointed. I got the iPhone 12 a little bit ago because I got like a free upgrade, and I was assuming like it's the newest iPhone, so of course I'd be able to play Arena once it came to mobile, but looks like I'm going to have to wait a little bit longer, although I'm pretty sure the article does say later this year, so hopefully, fingers crossed, that iPhone support will not be super far in the distance. Are either of you Android guys? Like, how restrictive are these specs? That's something I was wondering, because I saw people like talking about it on Twitter, but I don't really know much about Androids. Is this like, you gotta have the newest Android that came out in the last like 6 months, the last few years? Do either of you really know?
No.
I have not used an Android since high school. But that doesn't mean that my phone is current. I have like an iPhone 6 or something, or 7. So I'm being told by the people that know me that I should throw my junker away and get a new phone.
This looks pretty new because I have a Pixel 4, which is fairly new. Pixel 3 is the oldest one they support here. If we look at Galaxy, the S10 is the oldest one they support. So this is a they support S9. So I don't know. I think like 2-3 year old phones should be fine, but I don't know. Phones are like CPUs. Like the numbering system just makes zero sense nowadays. You have no idea. If you really want to know, it's a Kirin 970, a Snapdragon 845, or an Exynos 9810. Whatever that means, right? So
Sure, yeah, okay.
yeah, so I don't know. It seems like last 2-3 years should be good if you have like I guess these are flagship phones, right? So not like, you know, budget phones from 2-3 years ago, but like mid-range to flagship phones from 2-3 years ago should be good. But having said that, I don't know, right? I have like a 1080 Ti and Magic Arena like just like goes full blast on my PC. So I have no idea, right? I can play any game but Magic Arena on my computer in a reasonable fashion. So hopefully it's more optimized. We'll also see if it runs better on Mac or Android, because a lot of times like developers only optimize for one or not the other, and like the game just runs significantly better. Like it may just run on like an iPhone 5 or something, like who knows. So we'll see how it goes when they release the Mac. But I'm surprised they didn't go Mac first, because there's only like so many iPhones, right? Like there's like 10, maybe 15 models you need to support. There's like a billion Android models you need to support. So it's usually easier to support iPhones. So I'm surprised they went Android first.
I'm still very curious how it's going to play. Like, there's some pictures, probably mock-ups, I'm assuming, that they don't look too bad, but I'm still very curious. Once you get a big stack or a big board full of tokens or whatever, like, how is Arena going to handle that on the tiny screen of a mobile device? So I guess I'm going to have to wait a little longer to try it personally, but I'm still very, very curious how functional.
Yeah, I mean, it looks exactly the same, except the character portraits are off to the left, but the battlefield is the same. The hands are in the same position. It's not like the H game where they shift the hands, or, you know, the layout is actually different. The layout looks basically the same, based on the screenshot they shared. Like, who knows what it looks like when it goes live, but I think it will work for like 99% of the cases. Like, how many games do you end up with like 300 things on the battlefield, right? Like, those are very rare. So I think
That's the first thing I'm going to try to do on the phone. You know that, right? Like, I'm going to get him and be like, how do I break this?
And then Krim has a melted phone, and he's like, why did my phone melt? I don't know.
I don't get phone calls anymore. Actually, my keypad doesn't show up either. Does your phone always smell like it's burning? Oh, it doesn't.
Anyway, that's coming soon. We got a couple of weeks to go, and we'll be able to start checking it out. It doesn't seem like you have to do anything for the early access event as far as like apply to be in a beta or anything. So I'm assuming like if you have one of the proper phones, you can just download it. But they said more info will be coming with the state of the program this month. So we should get more details before the actual release on the 28th.
Yeah, there's nothing early access about it. It's just anywhere that has Google Play and you have an Android. So it seems like it's just coming to everybody.
Should be interesting at least. But we have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. That was just topic number one. We have a ridiculous amount of Kaldheim cards to talk about, and I gotta say, before we get individual cards, this set looks really sweet. I was expecting a lot out of Kaldheim, and so far, it has exceeded my very high expectations. We got like cool creature types. We have some cards with mechanics and abilities we've never even seen before that are really cool. We got sagas. What do you guys think? Like, overall, a week-ish into spoiler season, hype level up or down now that we've seen a chunk of the set?
If you're talking to me right now, I think Vornclex has my interests. Tybalt obviously has my interests, but I'm kind of medium. I'm still set on Strixhaven. I'm already waiting for Strixhaven. So you're like, if you're asking me, in my honest opinion, I Vornclex is the only Praetor. Why? But I mean, we have a lot of the set left, right? We have a lot of the set left. So I am curious why Vornclex is there. But yeah, like Snow being back seems fun and standard. Probably going to be terrible for older formats, but seems cool. But once again, Strixhaven and whatnot, because Tybalt's been revealed, and he doesn't look like he's getting banned, so I'll wait till the next iteration.
So I don't know. I think the set is okay. I think the set is very complicated. There are a lot of cards that do a lot of things, and a lot of things we haven't really seen before. So how it plays, I don't know. We'll have to actually play it. But so far, the thing that's got my attention the most are the new card styles. So the showcase cards, specifically the art on the showcase cards is pretty sweet. And also the Phyrexian frame that from Vornclex that Krim was talking about. It looks exactly like the Phyrexian Elish Norn, which was a huge hit. So I really am hyped for those cards. As for the power level of the set and what standard will look like, I'm not sure. There's just so many things happening, which we'll talk about in a couple seconds. But yeah, we have so many complex mechanics going on. How many Uros and Okos are in here, I'm not exactly sure.
It does seem like most of the cards have a lot of text on them, and then that doesn't even include how many MDFCs we have. So a lot of cards are also 2 cards, which means they have a lot of text twice on them. So it is a really, I think, complex set compared to a lot of sets. And it feels like Wizards has kind of, since Ikoria at least, pulled off a lot of the stops as far as trying to tone down complexity, and they're just like doing whatever they want to do at this point. And I kind of like it. I don't know how it goes for new players. Maybe new players just like play an Arena, and Arena kind of guides them through it and make sure that they're doing things the right way, and it's fine. But as someone who's played Magic for a while, I'm excited about all these like weird mechanics that we haven't seen before, really complex cards. But I guess we'll have to see how it plays.
All the text on all these cards. Oh man, I can't read all of this. I still learn a new thing about Questing Beast every day.
I think that's true, actually, right? Does anyone read all the text on cards anymore?
I just click and find out what happens and see if it works or not. I have a very smooth brain when it comes to this. We're just gonna see what happens. And so now that everything is a texting beast, oh, I'm gonna misplace so much. I already know it right now. YouTube comments on every video. I'm like, you know it does this, right? You know, because no, I don't. I don't know that it does that.
All right, let's talk about some individual cards. Richard, guide us through some sweet Kaldheim spoilers.
All right, so let's set the record straight. A couple of podcasts ago, we said there was no snow in Kaldheim because we were misled by Wizards. So
look, the Weather Channel's been wrong before.
Apparently, there's snow. Okay, it's a real thing. But basically, there was, remember, the pre-con leak, and then there was Foretell in it, and the 0 looked like a snow mana symbol. So Wizards went on stream and said, hey, we're going to cut this off. It's not a snow mana symbol. It's a 0. Here's the card. Here's Foretell. And we all took that to mean there's no snow. Turns out we're wrong. Snow is a major theme of the set. We have snow-covered basics, and we have snow-covered dual lands that are fetchable. So they have the basic types. But they enter the battlefield tapped, and they come in as common. So they're guild gates, except they're snow, and then they actually have the types. So for example, we have Sulphurous Mire. That is a snowland swamp mountain. It taps for black and red and enters the battlefield tapped. So what do you guys think about the return of snow to standard, to older formats, and these new snow duels?
I think just throw out your basic lands, throw out your normal basics. It is over. The era of playing just regular basic lands in Magic, it lasted, 26 years. It had a good run. Toss them out. I think you just always play snowlands now. Like, I think that's where we are. And I guess that's fine. Like, it sits weird with me to have another type of land that is, I would say, strictly better than basic lands. That's really weird to me, but I don't know. I guess I'll adjust to it. And as far as gameplay is concerned, I don't know. It's not that much different. There's still basic lands. It just allows you to play more cards that you couldn't play if you were not playing snow basics. I do think the land cycle is pretty exciting, and I'm kind of shocked it was common. Like, I think that's the most exciting part. We've had a lot of complaints about good lands always being rare, and then you end up with $100 Scalding Tarns and $40, shock lands at some points. This land cycle, not even being uncommon, is a pretty big deal. Not just for Pauper, but just for prices. Like, because these are common, they're going to be really cheap, and they are fetchable, they are far seekable, they turn on your snow synergies. I think this is on the short list of best common land cycles of all time. I think you can argue that the Karus or the bounce lands from Ravnica might be better, maybe the original cycling lands if you include those, even though they're not dual lands. But I think this is very top tier as far as common land cycles.
For older formats, I think this is better than all the previous mentioned, basically, because I mean we can fetch them. Standard, I mean, I don't know if that matters yet. So I do think that the return of snow is quite interesting. I think in standard, it's not going to be like super broken or anything like that. We don't have Ice Fang Coatl, or I mean, as of right now, who knows? But yeah, like I think this will be fun to see like what it's like in standard. However, I'm still, I've got my fingers crossed that we've got a Snowmageddon or something like that. There's got to be a snow check, right? Come on, there's got to be a snow check somewhere. Now, there's got to be, right?
There's not gonna, they're not gonna print Snowmageddon, right? But like Seth said, like there's just no downside to playing Snow now, and like throw away your guild gates, right? Like you never need to play a guild gate ever again because you might as well play this because you can fetch them. Right? So
right? Mazes End, Richard. Hey.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Historic players.
But yeah, like I just, so the downside of Snow was you didn't have dual lands. Right? If you played a Snow deck, your lands would tap for 1 mana, but now you have dual lands. So there's like literally no downside whatsoever. You need Snowmageddon, right? Or Snow Blood Moon or Snow Wasteland, but I highly doubt they're going to print that. And if they print it, it has to be something at like almost 0 cost to you, right? Because it's 0 cost for your opponents to play this. So we basically need like a dual, like a shock land that can tap to destroy a snow land or something, right? So that it also is no
like
cost to you.
A dust bowl, a
dust bowl that requires no sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the big concern here. Like that, this bothers me more so in other formats than it does in standard. The return of snow, but like I'm hoping that they, because there's no way they don't know that, right? So that means there's got to be something that punishes, and or you know what, we'll get lava covered basics soon. I don't know, because the thing is like there has to be something to punish these like snowlands and all these snow permanents.
So I will say in standard, I think it's fine. Like, we have a snowy standard for a couple years, whatever. Like, standard's going to rotate. My concern is more like commander, modern formats like that, where we already saw with Modern Horizons, there's like, at this point, 1 playable snow card, and it's Icefang Coatl. And even that is enough that a meaningful percentage of decks just always run Snowlands, and that's for 1 card. It only takes 1 playable card to make it correct to play Snowlands, and I think we're going to see this in Commander now. Like, let me just ask you guys, after Kaldheim releases, is there ever any time it would be correct for you to play normal basics in your Commander deck? I don't think there is. Like, maybe there's some weird, like, extra planner lens and everyone's playing, like, snow, so you, like, jank them out by playing non-snow. But, like, outside of those situations, like, it's just always correct, right? Even if you have 0 snow payoffs in your deck, just the fact that playing snow lands opens up the possibility that you could have these snow cards, when if you play normal basics, your opponents know you don't have any snow cards. Even that just makes it correct, even if you don't have any actual snow cards in your deck.
Actually, there is another reason why I won't play Snowlands. There's no Seb McKinnon Snowland art. So, and I mix and match all my lands. I might play 1 Snowland. So, I mean, for me, this doesn't change a thing in Commander. I don't think Icefang Coatl is enough for me to turn my deck into a snowy deck. Because there are better things than that for me.
Okay. Historic, Grim. You play a lot of Historic. Will you ever play normal basics in Historic, or from a spike perspective of trying to win as much as possible? Is
absolutely,
it just
absolutely
100% to always have snow?
Correct. But if you're talking about like a competitive format, like you're mentioning a 60 card format, I'm always going to play a snow deck. It doesn't unless tomorrow they reveal something that is so backbreaking and punishing to this entire snow mechanic. I will play snow in everything that's competitive.
Like, what could that card be, though? Like Snow Blood Moon? Like, what can it be,
well, no,
right?
no. It can't, because Snow Blood Moon, like, Blood Moon does not stop this. Because like you had mentioned, it is not something that like example, they spent none of their resources. They are just playing their game. And now you are wasting 4 slots in your deck to do this. So it has to be something that pretty much, like, if your opponent, if this blows up, like, six snow permanents or something. It blows up all snow permanents your opponents control. And if there's like 4 that are blown up this way, you win the game. It has to actually do that.
Armageddon, you win on the spot.
Yeah, you win on this. Like that's what it would have to be to make it worthwhile, right?
What about Melt? A red, so a single red, destroy target snow permanent.
I mean, that's like, oh man, that sounds really cool with Seagate, whatever the Warcaller or what a Stormcaller, blow up 2 lands. No, I think that would be not enough because that's just you're just blowing up one thing, and if you know that there's one thing that like all the decks in this format are like, if they have green, they're good at, they're gonna just drop like 19 lands on you and they don't care. So I don't know.
What about like Confounding Conundrum style? Like something that's 1 or 2 mana, cantrips when it enters the battlefield, and it's just like, I don't know, everything loses snow, or however you word that in a way that that sounds better than everything loses snow.
I mean, that doesn't even do anything, though,
it would have to be cheap, replace itself at the least, right? At the very least, it starts with it being 1 to 2 mana, and then you maybe draw a card or something like that. And maybe it's like every time your opponent plays a snow permanent, you draw a card.
How about snow price of progress? Is that enough?
Yeah. I mean, it might be enough for the low to the ground decks. Maybe.
That would make me think twice. That would make me think twice about playing snow. If I'm just going to be like, oh, like maybe I randomly take 10
progress.
damage.
Right there. Ice of progress.
I don't think it's enough though, right? I think you need enough of them. Like when you play the older formats where you have to choose between basic and non-basic, right? It's not just price of progress, right? It's the combination of price of progress, of wasteland, of like blood moon. It's like all of these, right? Because if it's just one deck, you're just like, I hope I dodge that deck. I don't know, right? Like whatever, right? I'll just go crush every other deck. There has to be enough across all the colors for you to be scared so that you actually play basics, or in this case, non-snow. So I actually think just like any one of these cards is not enough because only a certain kind of deck would play them, right?
I think the other way to go about it that would take care of it would just be to tack snow hate onto already playable effects. Like if Bloodchief's Ascension was destroy target creature or snow permanent, like something like that, then you're playing it for creature removal, plus you instantly get to punish on snow. So maybe that's not the perfect example, but I think like Doomblade that kills a creature or a snow permanent, I think would be a playable card. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, luckily though, right now, like we're talking about all the snow stuff, all the snow resources. Yes, that's terrifying for what it could mean. But as of right now, when we look at this set, I don't actually think there's anything that crazy in the snow department outside of the new land.
So we are 25 minutes into our podcast, and we have not gotten past the basic lands of Kaldheim.
Right.
Maybe we should talk about some sweet mythics.
Of Magic, Seth. These are the fundamentals, the basic land. We must cover them in full.
That's why, by the way, like I'm telling you, like to pretty much tell you how I feel about it right now, I don't think it's that bad yet for strictly speaking standard, because I don't see anything that's ridiculous. There's a few snow sorceries, whatever, like whatever, blood in the snow, but like I think the only thing that I've seen here that actually impresses me is the creature land, the super mutavault or whatever.
Although, before we move on real quick, I still think, like we were talking about with Historic, from a spike perspective, even if you don't have any good snow permanents in your deck, you should probably play snow basics in standard, just to make your opponent think that maybe you do have some snow cards. So I think it's still correct to do that, even if none of the cards are like super bonkers at this point.
Yeah.
All right,
Richard, Mythic us. Give us a
sweet
mythics.
All right, we're gonna start off with the Mythic Legendary Gods. So we're starting off with the mono green god Asika, god of the tree. 1 green, 1/4 legendary creature, god, vigilance. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Other legendary creatures you control have vigilance, and tap, add 1 of any color. It's an MDFC, of course, and the other side is the Prismatic Bridge. 1 of each color, so white, blue, black, red, green. Legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Of course, this card's in green.
It's not green. It's a 5-color card.
Sure. But what is the front side? Okay. No, like
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
This card's, it seems kind of medium. In all seriousness, it doesn't seem like anything. Like, it's a 3-mana dork that turns other legendary creatures you control, so you have to have a lot. I mean, so far, I just don't think this is, like, competitively speaking right now, I don't know how good this is. I can't get a good read on it, but to me, I think at best it's medium right now. It's no circle of loyalty.
That's actually where I am too with this card. Like, 3-mana mana dorks aren't that exciting as far as standard is concerned. Sure, it has some upside. We are seeing a legendary theme. If some sort of like legendary tribal deck develops, maybe this has some more value. Vigilance is nice because you can like attack with your questing beast, and well, I guess that always has vigilance, but you can attack with your legends and then tap them for mana post combat. The backside, it seems tough to cast, but there's a card we'll talk about in the future that gives you perfect mana, so maybe it's not that hard to cast. But really, to me, 5-color commander card, I think this is probably pretty close to like staple level for 5-color commander decks, where a mana dork's fine and the backside is pretty fun. But as far as standard, probably more against the odds on something that people are going to be doing competitive things with.
So it's in your command zone, so you can cast the backside of it, right? How does commander tax work? Does it apply to the backside as well?
Yep.
I believe it's one card, so it should be the same commander tax.
Yeah, I think this will be a pretty fun commander deck, right? Like, you just have no creatures in your deck, or, you know, whatever creatures you have are game-ending creatures, and then you just try to resolve Prismatic Bridge, and it's sitting in your command zone. So this sets up for combo decks where the combo piece is sitting in the command zone. So I think this will actually do stuff in EDH. I think for standard, it's too weird and like slow. But I think EDH, this will become a very popular card.
I mean, I'm thinking about just Super Friends. That's the first thing I think of. Ooh, I could play all the Planeswalkers.
That's too fair. You just want to dump Eldrazi. You want to flash this in at the end of someone's turn and then Eldrazi them.
Yeah, I mean, if you build around it, it is a little bit like Oath of Druids in your command zone. Like, if you only put the massive Eldrazi in your deck, that is actually potentially pretty powerful. Just turbo this out with mana rocks, and then if it gets blown up, do it again, because it goes back to your command zone.
I mean, we're slowly becoming Oathbreaker, right? The reason Oathbreaker was kind of flawed was that you just had so many combo pieces sitting in your command zone that you could cast at any time. And this is getting you closer, right? With these MDFC gods that especially do like non-fair things. Like, you just have combo pieces sitting in your command zone for you to combo off at any time. Next up, we have the Red God, Torelf, God of Fury, 2 red, 5/4 trample. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, Torelf deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. The flip side is a hammer, Torelf's Hammer, 1 and a red. Its equipment, equipped creature has 1 and a red tap. Unattached Torelf's Hammer, it deals 3 damage to any target. Return Torelf's Hammer to its owner's hand. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 as long as it's legendary. Equipped is 1 and a red.
I love this card. This is one of the unique ones where we have never seen this excess damage mechanic or ability before, and I think it's actually kind of powerful. Even just like the boring aspect of it. You play this, you lightning bolt an X1 and get 2 extra damage is really sweet, but that doesn't even include, like, in Commander, you play this as your commander, then you just like Blasphemous Act, and theoretically you're like have a stuffy doll essentially that's gonna probably just kill the table if your opponents have a bunch of creature from all the excess damage from your Blasphemous Act. I think this card's actually like legitimately good. In standard, it can do some really wonky things with Chandra's Incinerator, where if you have them both, you can like throw a burn spell at your opponent's face, and then Incinerator redirects it to a creature, and then Torelf redirects excess damage back to your opponent, which then goes back to the creature thanks to Chandra's Incinerator. It's not like an infinite loop, but it is like pretty spicy. So I think this card's really unique and super fun, and it might actually be pretty good.
I love this card in Commander. I think this card is a sweet Commander card. Does everything I would use this as my commander. And I mean, I would love to then just use bunch, like much like Seth was thinking. The first thing I thought of when I saw this was Blasphemous Act, Star of Extinction, stuff like that, right? So I think this is a cool card there. In standard, I'm not sure yet. I don't want to get too hyped up on this card in standard. It doesn't feel like it does enough for me in standard yet.
Yeah, the equipment size sucks, right? Like, like this equipment is like super slow. You don't really want to be casting this in.
Embercleave exists, so you don't the excess like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, why would I do this instead of just Embercleaving somebody in the ground, right? Like,
the equipment half's not that bad. Like, I don't think that's the calling card of Torelf. Like, you're not playing it because you want Torelf's hammer, but I can't imagine like being a red aggro deck and getting in most of the damage to close out the game, and then your opponent stabilizing and just like having a 6-mana lightning bolt for the last few points of damage.
What if you just Embercleave to close the game instead of trying to hammer them?
It's not that Torelf is like bad in any way. It's just a lot of how I'm looking at this set is, what does this do in a world of Eldraine?
I will say that the biggest problem I've seen with a lot of the creatures from Kaldheim is there's a lot of 4 and 5 drops that trade down with Bone Crusher or Lovestruck Beast. And when like 40% of decks are playing Bone Crusher or Lovestruck Beast, it makes some of the cards that I would be excited about otherwise a little less exciting. Because you're like, oh, my 5-drop, I got this sweet like Quakebreaker or whatever. It's going to be so sweet. And then they're like, oh, you got Lovestruck Beast. My deck does nothing now. That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, this is a combo.
And then what are they going to do? Ban those 2 cards? I mean, like, come on, Eldraine's already pretty much all rotated. So
they could,
the thing here, I guess they could. But
it turns out this 3-mana 5/5 is kind of like crushing every like 4, 5, and 6 drop we ever print. So maybe.
Turns out Eldraine has just crushed every set that's been in print after it. But like, without looking at that, and let's just say we ignore the powerhouse that is Eldraine, right? I think as of right now, there's probably better to be doing. But in Commander, this card is great. If there is a red deck, then sure. But I haven't seen that many good burn spells.
Yeah, I think this is still unplayable in standard. Like, unless there's a combo, like unless they print Blasphemous Act or something, and you can just combo off like 4 mana 5/4 with no haste, with no ability. You need to play burn, but burn has to hit a creature. Right. So, and then like the other half of it, the hammer is just like pretty much useless. I just don't see how you would play this.
Yeah.
But Commander, that Star of Extinction.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. Or you can actually, if you have a mana doubler, you can like wipe the board or something. Like if you, not a mana doubler, like a damage doubler. Like, so if you like lightning bolt something with a Torbrand, it deals 5, and then there's excess damage, and that excess damage gets pumped by Torbrand again, and then you kill something else, and you can just kind of like chain lightning the board. So it is really exciting for a Commander.
Correct. And that is where I'm excited to play this card.
All right, Circle of Loyalty, yay or nay?
No, nothing will match the power level that is Circle of Loyalty.
That's our new barometer for this. Yeah.
With it at the top.
In standard, it would be hilarious to have this with Fiery Emancipation and just like shock something and have that shock like chain off and win the game after a while.
We imagine these elaborate board states, but who's going to have more than like 2 creatures in standard?
That's not like unheard of, by the way, because all you have to do is remember a card from Eldraine that might have slipped under the radar, Irencrag Feat, drop Fiery Emancipation, drop God, literally just shock something.
Yeah.
And go to town.
That would be.
But what if you're playing Crim and he has no creatures?
Well, you know, just dodge me. As simple as that.
All right. Next up, we have Valki, God of Lies, 1 in a black. It's 2/1. When Valki enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed until Valki leaves the battlefield. You pay X, choose a creature card, exile the Valki with converted mana cost X. Valki becomes a copy of that card. Flip side, surprise, it's Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter.
Yes.
5 black and a red, 5 starting loyalty. As Tybalt enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with you may play cards exiled with Tybalt, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. +2, exile the top card of each player's library. -3, exile target artifact or creature. -8, exile all cards from all graveyards. Add red, red, red.
Think about this here, okay? This card, outside of standard, you can cascade into this. You can cascade into this, and that is sick. Oh, man. And then on top of that, this card, I don't think this card is any like particularly broken in any way, but by golly, is this a fun card. This is going in my Grixis deck. This is going in every deck that I can put it in. This is so much fun. Tybalt is like, I've embraced my inner Tybalt. So if this card doesn't scream like everything that I like doing in Magic, where it's just being annoying but doesn't necessarily win the game, perfect. So like this card does that exactly what I want it to do. But in standard and like competitively speaking, I don't know about this one. Like it's nice that you have this early threat, this 2/1, which I think is really cool. But unless we're like cascading into it or something like that, you know what I mean? I don't know how we're really gonna get to 7 mana and like win the game with this.
I really like the design of this card. I like that it lets you potentially play 4 copies of a 7-mana Planeswalker because you can always just play it as a 2/1. I think the Valky side is actually like kind of meh. Like, I mean, it's on curve, but only hitting creatures. It's gonna get stomped a lot in standard, so I don't think it's like permanent discard. I would almost prefer if it was actually like permanent discard, like Bugler Rat or something, where you just got rid of a card rather than getting rid of it and then giving it back. I do think it's sweet that you can potentially play it on turn 2 after a 1/1 and steal a Lovestruck Beast. In turn 3, just turn into a hasty Lovestruck Beast essentially and smash your opponent for a bunch of damage, which seems kind of good if you can set that up. I do think the most exciting part though is definitely like cheating it into play. I'm actually kind of surprised that they went with those rules, that you can cascade into Valky and cast Tybalt, bring to light into Valky, cast Tybalt. There's a bunch of other emergent ultimatum, can find Valky and then cast the Tybalt side. So there's a bunch of shenanigans like that I think are pretty good.
So you're telling me I can Bloodbraid Elf and plop down a Tybalt?
Yep.
Ooh, Jund playable.
Does this
Richard?
make Jund playable? Probably not, because you probably didn't want a Tybalt. That was probably
this does not die to abrupt decay. So
that
I mean,
is true, but you're
the
probably
Tybalt
not
side.
trying to just draw cards off Bloodbraid Elf.
It seems very good in Commander too. Like, this is in your
That's
command
where-
zone.
Yeah.
You can play this and you can cast the God side in the early game if you want to, and then Tybalt later. In the +2, geez, when you have 4 opponents and you're drawing 4 cards a turn, that's pretty bonkers. And because it's an emblem, even if Tybalt dies, you still can cast all those cards that you exile with Tybalt.
How do you feel about the emblem? Like the no counterplay and ETB emblem, right? Like once it enters, it's it. You have the emblem.
There is a
forever.
counterplay. You can disallow that, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the emblem making, but once it's there, it's
I don't
there,
know, although
right?
I don't know why you wouldn't just counter the card itself, but like, you know what I mean? But yeah, once it's there, it's there.
I think it's tough. I think Tybalt would be unplayable in Commander if you couldn't cast or much closer to unplayable if you couldn't cast the cards even after Tybalt dies, because Planeswalkers die frequently in Commander. So I think it would be much less appealing for Commander, but I would still like emblem interaction. Again, almost like we were talking about with Snow. Give me a Doomblade that kills a creature or an emblem, and I would be down with that.
Emblems are the new
I
enchantments.
I don't think emblem should be interactable. Just because everything that you do to go through, like to get through, to like play that,
Just
to
literally
get that
casting
emblem.
Tybalt. I mean, for Planeswalker Ultimates, I understand, but this one is just like a freebie off of Tybalt, right?
Hey,
But it's not a game winner, right? It's not like Teferi's emblem, right? It could be, but I mean, it's as good as your opponent's deck will allow it to be.
we live in a world where black is blowing up enchantments, blue is exiling artifacts. Don't tell me that emblems can't be interacted with. It's 2020. The color pie is out the window. Everything does everything except emblems. I don't know about that.
I have a better,
if it exists, it's going to be in green. Like, so sure.
You'll
Why?
interact by interacting with the exile zone, by putting it into mega exile instead, where Tybalt can no longer cast it.
I mean, sure thing. This
It's
card,
a new green ability. Trust, it's coming.
this card is for me. I think this is better than it looks right now, and that's because I'm biased and I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna make sure that I force it in every deck that I can until I really do get heartbroken and find out that it sucks. But
I think it'll be fun in Jund in Modern. I think it's a good win more. I think it'll make you the king of fair, right? Like, you'll be able to keep up with other fair decks, but it helps you zero against all the unfair decks.
I mean, that's Jund anyways. Like,
Yeah, but Jund can't even beat the fair decks anymore. They all out Jund. All right, next up.
Wait, hold on. Question: how does this work with Lurrus? Is this
works?
It works, right?
It's a 2, yep. So that's kind of another, you can play like Rakdos Lurrus or whatever and have a 7-drop Planeswalker, although I don't know how often.
You can't play the 7-drop side. You can only cast the
No.
2-drop side.
No. It would be legal to play with Lurrus as your commander, but you can't like cast Tibalt from your graveyard now. That would be...
Well, I mean, that means you still have a 7-mana Planeswalker, so that's pretty cool. That you could play.
All right, next up, we have Turgid, God of Fright. 3 black. This is a rare legendary god. 4/5 menace. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. The Lantern. 3 and a black. Target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discards a card. 3 and a black. Untapped Turgid's Lantern.
Best commander card from the set. Not even close. Like, I'm actually like kind of nervous this card might be too good for commander. It seems so easy to break this. Like, you just play this and then you wheel and you get all the permanents in everyone's hand. That's insane. Or you play this and you Death Cloud and you get all the permanents on everyone's hand and all their lands and all their creatures. Like, this card's busted. It's absolutely busted. And then even the backside that doesn't look like much, if you have infinite mana, it kills the table. Like, it's an infinite mana sink in your command zone. So make infinite mana. You gotta have black included, but still infinite mana in the command zone, win the game, and a Fry-F that's really crazy. Cards bonkers in Commander, I think. In Standard, probably too expensive, too slow, but...
I think this card's unplayable in 60 card constructed. Because if I'm trying to go hold my Thoughtseize until after I play my 5-drop, that's not good.
It is kind of funny hate against sack decks, though.
I mean, yeah, like it is a good way to play against the sack deck, but like I still feel like this is just like not that good in 60 card constructed. However, Commander, I think it's pretty powerful. I don't know if it's like I'm not up in arms about it yet. I have to play against it before I say anything or play with it myself. But as of right now, it just seems powerful. But it does not seem like I'm gonna throw my computer out the window if I get paired against it, right?
But let me sell you on this. You know how many Notion Thieves you've played?
Yeah.
Imagine if your Notion Thief, instead of drawing you those cards, put them all onto the battlefield. It's 1 more mana, and it's a Notion Thief that puts all those cards on the battlefield instead of in your hand.
That's terrible. That would then win me the game. I don't want to win the game. I just want you to feel bad that I drew all your cards, and then I lost because I didn't do anything after.
I mean, this is like Soul Ring, Jewel Lotus, Turgid, and then... Is there a black windfall effect? That's the problem.
Yes,
yeah,
dark
deal.
Yep,
oh, dark
3
deal.
mana.
There we go. That's what you do, and then you just win the game on the spot.
Okay, so if I handpick my 7 cards, though, I also can win with a lot of other stuff, right? Right now, the only thing I can think of, if this is your mono black commander, right? Like this, you know, like, yeah, there's powerful interactions that you could do with this, but I think it is a very powerful card, but. Is it the sky is falling bad though? I don't think so.
No, but it's the Narset wheel. Like Narset wheel is actually kind of hard to pull off, right? Because that's like at least 6 mana if you're trying to do it at the same time, and then if you do it piece by piece, people are just gonna rip it apart.
But
it
more
does
wheels
eventually
in blue.
happen, and when it happens, it just wins the game, right? And then it's a very salty feeling. So yeah, most of the time this won't happen because as soon as you see Turgid, you're like, okay, we must annihilate it. So you end up having to like Dark Ritual or Jewel Lotus into your quote unquote finisher. But I don't know. I feel it's just like a cheap win, I guess. It's like too easy, right? It's just like imagine if there was like an 8 mana card that was like win the game and that's all you had to do. And then so people would see you reach 6 mana and they would annihilate you, or you somehow ramp to 8 mana and you just win the game. So I feel it's kind of one of those cards where I don't know if it just promotes good gameplay. Like you see how crazy Waste Not gets, right?
Yeah.
Waste Not is giving you 2 mana or a zombie or something, right? This is giving you the actual cards, right? So,
I mean, but if your deck is like, let's say you build a deck that's meant to discard, right? What are you gonna do? Hold all your discard spells until you play your commander?
Pretty much.
That seems kind of bad, right? I mean, I would like to mind shatter somebody. Obviously, that's hilarious, and then get all their cards. But like,
I mean, I think there's.
I think I found a new way to try to assemble Cauldra.
Oh, wouldn't that be hilarious? You just like get somewhere to discard his Cauldra pieces one by one, then assemble Cauldra like that.
I mean, and I think we might be focusing too much on like the absurd things this can do. Just like playing this and then playing something that edicts the table. You get to steal everyone's creatures. Like
Playcrafter just got like crazy valuable.
Yeah, Playcrafter's insane. Mind Slicer and a sack outlet. Obviously, you steal everyone's hand. So I feel like even though there's only one mono black wheel, there are a lot of synergies for this deck. So, for a Turgid deck, if you want to actually build around it, play the edicts, play the discard stuff, maybe throw an infinite mana for the backside of it, and I feel like it might actually be a pretty good deck. I think it'd be fun, but I don't know if it'd be fun to play against multiple times. Like, seeing it once, it's going to be like, wow, that was insane. But if I had someone in my playgroup that was doing it every game, I don't know if I would enjoy that.
Check back with me in like 2 months after its release, and I'll tell you how I feel about it. But as of right now, I think it sounds fun. But that's because
to prove our point, we will have to target Crim with Turgid.
Yep.
Yes. Just constantly dunk me with this, but like,
are you really thought seizing me for the 5th time?
I have no cards. They're all on your board. No, like I think this is like I have a, but I guess you know what? I enjoy Magic in a different way.
You like Opposition Agent and Hull Breacher, and to me, this was one of those kind of cards where it's just. But
Opposition Agent didn't even. It's not even that broken. So
what's the salt score EDH rec for this? Has it?
I mean, okay, the salt score. Having Island is probably like number 1, right? Like so, like when you think gameplay wise, Island isn't doing anything; it's just existing, and that's.
Do you accidentally go to the salt score page when you're building your deck scrim instead of like the actual deck page? Like maybe that explains it. You're clicking on the wrong EDH rec link.
You know that
it's all the saltiest cards.
Is it bad that I do love a good majority of the cards on there?
I just need to figure out how to Armageddon with this. I make you sack all your lands and take them.
Cataclysm.
Is it a sacrifice? What does Cataclysm say? It's destroy, no?
Cataclysm does do it, I think.
It is sack.
Death Cloud also.
Jockle Hops. And you play this in your Tybalt deck. And you
Jockle Hops is definitely destroy. It's very all permanence.
Oh, okay.
The red one from Kamigawa too. I can never remember. The one where each player sacks a land for each card in your hand. That would get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but to tie it all back, like Turgid is powerful. Don't get me wrong. This is a very powerful card. And I'm excited to see what happens with it and Playcrafter and all those effects. Like specifically though, Playcrafter is going to be so good. Oh, but yeah.
Someone get me a Thresh Altar. This is the perfect Thresh card.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. This is definitely Thresh. It's from League of Legends, Seth.
Oh, I was wondering, what
He's a guy with a lantern, and he collects souls.
Is that an X-Men?
He's the Turgid. All right, next up, we have the World Tree. It's a rare land. It enters tapped. Tap it to add a green. As long as you control 6 or more lands. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. White, blue, black, red, green. So 2 of every color. Tap, sacrifice, search your library for any number of god cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
Do you remember that scene from the Avengers where Captain America pulls up his chair and he goes, "So you got detention." Well, this is like, so you wanted to balance Field of the Dead. and so here we go. This card is not legendary. It's broken. This is the card where I'm like, whoa, hold on here. What?
Wait, what's so broken about it? Someone explain to me what's broken about it. I don't get it. You guys have been raving about this card. I'm sitting here like, what am I missing?
Okay. So it makes, you don't even have to do anything really. You just need to have a 6th land. And then all of a sudden, all your mana taps for all the colors that you could ever want. And it's like, I don't even need the gods part. Like, I don't even care about the gods part. It's just that powerful. It allows your mana base to do whatever you want to do, and it's very hard to interact with. Like,
but outside of trying to cast an ultimatum, like when by the time you hit 6 mana, when is like colors of mana ever relevant? Like Golos?
What are we talking? What were we spending like 25% of this podcast talking about at the beginning? Mana sources, right? Our resources. Magic's resources. That's how we win the game. Like, we curve out, we do whatever. Our resources allow us to do that stuff, right? But and what does this do? Right now, this allows you to it makes it so you ignore your resources, whatever. Like, what do I have? Like 19 colorless lands, doesn't matter, because now I can just cast whatever I want off this world.
But there's no way you would build your deck like that, right? Because before turn 6, you need to cast your spells, so you're playing like chock full of triomes and duels anyway. And most likely, by the time you get 6, you can cast all your spells. Maybe ultimatums get like easier, or like the activation of this thing, right? Like there are certain cards that are pretty restrictive in cost, so this card helps it. But most cards, like, I don't know, are you really that mana screwed by the time you get to 6 mana? I'm like super confused.
You just play like mono green aggro and then cryptic people. Think of it that way.
But you have a cryptic that's uncastable for 5 turns. Like, are you really gonna do that?
I think it enables 5-color piles. That's kind of like my thinking. Like, sure, maybe you can cast most of your cards anyway, but this is going to make sure you cast all your cards all the time. And is it relevant for most standard decks? Probably not. I don't think like every deck's going to play it, but I do think if you're already green based, why, like, it's only a tap land. It's a tap forest. Like, is that enough of a downside for you to not play that in like Abzan or some 3-color deck? It seems like the cost is low enough for Temur Ramp or something. Why wouldn't you play it even in a 3-color deck? And if you're 4 or 5-color and you want to go like Niv, or you've been tutoring out Cascading Cataracts with Golos, like, isn't this just better than a lot of the stuff people have already been trying to do with Cascading Cataracts in formats like Historic or even in Pioneer or Modern sometimes? And I think it shows up in every 5-color commander deck. It's a Chromatic Lantern that's on a land. Like, tutor up with one of your land tutors and have perfect mana for the rest of the game. Why wouldn't you play that in every 5-color commander deck?
But this is even better than Chromatic because A, it's not an artifact or enchantment, which is easily blown up. And B, you didn't spend any mana to do anything. You literally just put it onto the board, and it's like, I exist. Also, it's not legendary. It's the world tree, not the world trees. Like, so...
There's more than one world. Come on.
Okay, then, like, but the thing is, this should be, if this is supposed to be Yggdrasil, right? Like, Yggdrasil, or however you're supposed to say it. I do apologize if I butchered that. This should be legendary. Why is this not legendary?
Yeah, I don't know why it's not legendary. It's like it's like Valakut. Like, is that not the Valakut? Like, why can't I have multiple?
The Valakut? No, it's not. Apparently, it's
the answer, because I brought this up on Twitter and Mark Rosewater chimed in. Appears to be they don't do legendary lands anymore. So
that is a dumb reason. Why can lands not be legendary?
Let's just have Urborgs. like tombs of the Yawgmoth. Let's go do that.
All right. So wait, this is standard staple? Yay, nay? I'm confused. Are you guys liking the power level in Commander or like constructed?
I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I'm gonna play an Esper deck and I'm just gonna have 4 of these in there because it's like I add 1 green mana, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Like, but after that certain point, all my mana's fixed.
With the goal of casting what, though? Like, you have a white, black spell to cast? Like,
honestly, Fae of Wishes, now I can go grab whatever I want out of the sideboard.
Oh, that's a good point. I like that play.
Right, like, I'm gonna go do whatever I want
Wishes now. And then grab just a sideboard card from any color.
Yeah, like, I'll have one of each ultimatum in the side. Like, and if this is like, once again, Wizards, if you're listening and you want to add Cruel Ultimatum to Historic, I wouldn't hate it. But like, yeah, like... I would just... I like that.
Right?
That. Like,
yeah.
I could do what... the thing is, it may not look like much up front, but the thing here is I'm abusing the resource system.
Yeah, I mean, that's my argument, is just the cost is low. Like, is it absolutely insane? I don't think it's absolutely insane in most decks, but it's one of those, like, the opportunity cost is... Even if you're playing the Esper deck like Krim was, you're essentially playing a colorless land that comes into play tapped, and you're getting a pretty big reward in the late game. So I think the opportunity cost is low enough that it's going to see play in a lot of standard decks and in decks in other formats too, like Modern, Pioneer. I think there will be like 5-color pile decks. Maybe you don't play a ton of these, but you can tutor up with Primeval Titan or Our Promise or however you're getting your broken lands on the battlefield, Elvish Reclaimer, and then that enables you.
This is going straight into Niv Delight. right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's perfect
right?
for something like Nibdelite, yeah. So I think it's going to be really good. I don't think it's broken or bannable or anything, but I think it's going to be strong and maybe open up some new, like, Pily style archetypes. Even like the Urwamnath deck in Modern. Like, I think that's a deck that would probably be interested in some number of copies of this. You're trying to cast white spells and red spells and cryptic commands, and this would make it a lot easier. And just put it in off of your Uro or whatever, it comes into play tapped. Like, who cares? Like, it's not that big of a deal. And you're already playing Triumphs that come into play tapped to do less than this most of the time.
And this is like commander-wise, this is an auto include.
Yeah, 100% of 5-color commander decks should play this card.
Like, yeah,
I don't even think there's a justification. Unfortunately, it has to be 5-color, right? Because of the god tax. So you can't technically play it in a 3-color deck, or I would play it in those decks too if I could.
Right.
You guys remember this when there's a blood moon. You're like, maybe I should have played that basic forest.
And when there's a blood moon, the rest of my mana base is already gone anyways. So you know what I mean?
All right, next up we have Faceless Haven. It's a snow land. It's a rare. Tap to add a colorless mana. 3 snow, so snow. Faceless Haven becomes a 4/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land.
Okay, this card
so much.
I think this card is so sick. The artwork, it reminds me of the anime The Ancient Magus Bride. Just the card, this is just sweet, right? You tap 3 snow resources, you have a vigilant land, and it's everything. It's a bigger Mutavault.
Yeah, it feels like fixed Mutavault to me, I would say. Like a slightly safer or standard version of Mutavault. But a lot of formats don't have Mutavault. Like Standard doesn't have it, Historic doesn't have it, and I think this is on par with, or maybe in some decks at least, better than other creature lands we've seen recently. Like
that's the one thing. Is this? Do you think this is better than Crawling Barrens? Because I don't.
Like, if you're a tribal deck, I think this would be. Okay. In a generic, like, control deck, probably not. But I think in some decks, it's better than, like, Crawling Barrens.
Yeah, I could see that. Because the every type will matter more. Whereas, Crawling Barrens, I'm just using it to, like, close out a game. So.
Yeah. So I think it is very good.
This makes me play snow in every deck, right? Like, now you have a reason to play snow. Now you can play a 4/3 for 3 mana. And it has tribal synergies. It's actually going in all my jank decks as like the greatest creature. And it doesn't ETB tap.
It's Kithkin. It's Kithkin.
It's the greatest Kithkin ever. It's a 14 with vigilance, right? Didn't even cost me a card. It's my land, right? So I just don't like the power creep here. And I just don't like how it just forces everyone to play snow, right? Now, it's like if they made Mutavault have snow mana, then everyone would just play Mutavault in their deck and everyone would have snow mana, right? Now everyone has snow mana and then they'll play a Faceless Haven because why not? The cost is close to 0. So it just restricts deck building and it's just an auto include. So I don't like it in that sense. Is it a fair enough card? Sure. I mean, it's a 4/3 land, but
isn't that more of a problem with snow as a mechanic though than this card in specific? I feel that way about what you were just like
back
describing.
to square one.
We're getting near the end. We're gonna wrap things back around to what we started with. But isn't that just how all snow cards work, or most snow cards work, rather than this card in specific?
No, because this is actually free. Like for example, like if you had lightning bolt or whatever, right? You have the decision of whether you want to play lightning bolt or not, and whether to include the snow lands, right? Like Skred, right? Here, what is the choice? You might as well. It's like a free creature land. Like why not, right? And then it's auto include, and then because you auto include it, you have all of the snow, right? So if you're playing like a 2-color deck or less, right? Or if you're playing any tribal deck, this is like auto include, right? Anything with tribal synergies, and there's a lot of just random cards that are okay with just like random upside tribal synergies in the set, right? Like the card is perfectly respectable, but if you control something of this type that gets slightly better, you would totally play this, right? So I think because this card is also free, like imagine if Skred cycled, right? Then you would just auto-include in every deck because it cycles, why not, right? Then you would auto-include all basics. And then at the end of the day, after all the auto-include commander staples and format staples, you have like 5 card choices for your deck, right? So that's why I don't like cards like this.
So what I hear you saying is you were joining me and throwing out all of your basic lands.
Yeah, I already threw out all my basics on Moto anyway. Yeah, I mean, we have to, right? All jank tribal decks, which is all the decks I play, will play this. So yeah, I will no longer see another basic land. I'll forget what they look like. All right. Next up, we have, let me find it, Maskwood Nexus. 4 generic mana. It's an artifact. It's a rare. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. 3 and tap, create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with changeling.
Now, I know this is kind of small ball in it, considering how powerful this card is, but I just want to name rogues, and I just want to have a Thieves Guild Enforcer and just keep milling people. That's like that's that's like super small ball, but like outside of that, this card is really good. I think this card is really good. Commander wise, like this is now what's the 3 mana enchantment from Ixalan? The blue
Arcane
one.
Adaptation, but even better in a lot of ways, because you're all creature types instead of just choosing one. So yeah, it's like an upgraded version of that. But any combo that worked with Arcane Adaptation also works with Maskwood Nexus.
Now we can wait. Hold on, but now we have Deathbellow Warcry, right?
Yeah, you can Deathbellow Warcry. Anything into play, any 4 creatures, you can like use a name or a name, whatever the spirit is, to like mill all the creatures in your deck and reanimate them. There's like infinite shenanigans with this card, like Gemhide Sliver, and all your creatures are mana doors. Like there's any of the creature tutors, like Goblin Matron is just hard tutor for any creature. I think this is one of the most fun cards in the deck. I would be surprised if this wasn't one of the most popular commander cards in the deck. But what do you think, Grim? Like, is this a standard card? To me, this feels like a Panharmonicon, like a card that I will build janky fun decks around in standard, but I would be really surprised, unless there's some combo that I haven't seen yet that just breaks the game and wins the game like Splinter Twin style. I'd be really surprised if this showed up in like competitive decks outside of maybe Commander.
I mean, like, we're talking about like in 60 card formats. I'm definitely going to try something, right? Pyre of Heroes, Maskwood Nexus. But like, is that good enough? I don't know, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm talking about a 4 mana do nothing when it hits the board. Like,
yeah, I've played a lot of Panharmonicons. This reminds me a lot of Panharmonicons, where maybe in the right deck, the right situation, there could be a competitive deck with it. But as someone who's played a lot of Panharmonicons, it's hard to take off turn 4 for a card that doesn't do anything in formats like standard. Like that's where I see the comparison is. It's really difficult to just be like, oh, I'll skip by turn 4, and your opponent's like, oh, I'll Questing Beast and attack you for 4, and you're like, oh, how am I going to get back from that?
I mean, I agree with like how that plays out, but I think Panharmonicon's a little bit better because you're going to get, like, let's say you play something, you're going to get the value almost instantly, right? As you like have the Panharmonicon, it's already done its job. You've sunken your investment mana into it. Everything from here on out will now just party it up. This card, I don't know. I mean, I want to get a 2/2 changeling. That's like in 60 card formats. In Commander and whatnot, this card is great. But in 60 card formats, I think this is just going to make a 2/2. Like you know what I mean? Like, that's 7 mana for a 2/2.
There are a ton of things I want to do with this, though. Like, can you imagine like playing this with Muxus and Historic and just like Muxusing whatever creatures you hit into play, or like Liliana's Contract, you can win with any 4 creatures instead of needing demons. So there are really fun things you can do, but I think those are probably gonna all be semi-competitive, like win once in a while and do cool things decks, rather than like winning tournaments and hitting Mythic style decks.
We're all familiar with the Winmore. We just mentioned that. At what point, like, why did we go through all of that for a Muxus instead of just like playing goblins?
Literally putting goblins in your deck. Yeah. I mean, I think even in Commander, this is Winmore. I think like this will be a staple in all my decks because I play Terrible Tribes where 7 mana for a 2/2 is actually a decent rate. But like I don't think you'd put this in vampires or goblins or anything like that. Like, you know, the good tribal decks in Commander, like all your creatures are probably the type anyway, right? And there's only like a handful of support creatures that are not the type, and you don't want to pay 7 mana for a 2/2. Right? So I would put this in like Crocodile Tribal, or I would put this in, I don't know, Frog Tribal, right? But I would not put this in any commander deck with like good tribal support, like, you know, like dwarves, goblins, vampires, zombies, things like that. Like this card is kind of like a 4 mana do nothing. Like you might as well just play more of that tribe, right? Like,
I mean,
rather than change your deck into a combo deck.
But I think in Commander, this like does it's a little bit better than that. Because let's say you just have something like tap 5 zombies, whatever, I forgot what it is from Onslaught, and then put a card in the graveyard from play.
But what do you have on the battlefield that's not a zombie?
Well, but there are some times like where like, let's say I'm playing like Esper zombies, right? I have some cards in white and blue that aren't a zombie, but now they are considered zombies. So it gets the benefits of my Lord effects. You know what I mean? Like imagine Vampire Nocturnus. And you're playing, I don't know, you've got like some random artifact creature or something like that, but now like a Darksteel Colossus. But now it's a vampire with flying, that's
like,
cool.
I guess like your Solemn becomes a vampire or something, right?
Yeah,
but typically tribal
sick.
decks don't have that many non-on-tribe cards. Right? Like you wouldn't just put a random Muxus in your Berserker deck because you're relying on Maskwood Nexus, right? Like you wouldn't do that, right?
No, yeah, you're right. But
normally
this
your deck would probably work already without the Nexus, so it's not worth it for that one Solemn to become, the on-tribe creature.
But I feel like there's just only upside, right? Because like then you have the ability here where you can just pay in Commander, right? When we're just sitting there and, like you aren't trying to commit too many resources to the board because there's 3 other players, right? There's tons of ways they can blow up your board and then you're stuck. But the thing here is you can just sit there with a Maskwood Nexus and then just make a bunch of 2/2s, right? You make an army just by sitting there, forcing somebody to act. And I think that this on its own can kind of just run away with the game. And you just play one actual thing from your hand, like a Lord effect, without spending any resources.
That is true, or you could just play a 1-mana 2/2 vampire in your Edgar Markov deck, right? Which gets the same effect of this. So, I don't know. I think the good tribes, you wouldn't really play this. But for the bad tribes, I would definitely pay 7 mana for a 2/2.
And I think that you're right that I don't know if I would just jam this into Edgar Vampires or Najila Warriors or something. I think that's less exciting. But I like the possibility of like kind of melding 2 tribes together or doing things like that. I think tribal decks actually might be the worst though, because like you said, all your stuff is probably already that tribe. But like look at Tomer's tribal deck that he always plays. Like something like that where you're trying to harness the power of lords and tutors from a bunch of different tribes and hold them together with changelings. This is like the perfect card for that style of deck building where you're trying to pull from different tribes and put together.
Deck. That partner pair, the one that gives all your knights double strike and the dragon that gives whatever, like that, where you're playing 2 tribes at once, this would be perfect for that.
Yeah, that's where I'm most excited about it, trying to put 2 or 3 different tribes together, although at the same time, you run the risk of going too far because Maskwood Nexus is a pretty unique card, and I guess you have like Arcane Adaptation and Conspiracy for certain decks, but if you go like tribal and you build exclusively around Nexus, there's a big risk that you're not going to draw it or it immediately gets killed and then the rest of your deck doesn't do anything. So I think it's important to avoid going too far into that trap either. You're going to end up with a deck that's really sweet like a couple games out of 10 when you have Maskwood Nexus and it sticks, but then is just absolutely miserable the other 8 games out of 10 when you don't find it or it gets countered or gets killed or whatever, exiled.
As a combo piece, it's really good. So I expect most people play this in an unfair fashion by creating some creature type and then comboing to win the game instantly. All right, we're running long, but there's 2 more cards that we need to cover because they're like the best cards. And here is my pick of the format for the next Uro. Tybalt's Trickery. 1 and a red, instant, counter target spell, choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then they put the exiled cards on the bottom of the library in a random order.
I think this card's really good. It's like a Chaos Warp essentially for spells, and I think this is a card that can see play actually across formats. I don't think you don't want to use this like a normal counter. If you are playing in Standard and you're playing mono red, you don't want to bring this in and counter your opponent's Lovestruck Beast or something, because who knows, they could flip into something that is even better than Lovestruck Beast. On the other hand, if you're in that same matchup and your opponent casts Genesis Ultimatum or Ugin, kind of all upside. Like, sure, they're going to get something out of the deal, but it's almost certainly not going to be as good as what you're countering. You can do that in formats like Modern, too. If you're hitting the Goblin Charbelcher against Belcher, or the Balustrade Spy against Upsal spells, like countering the key combo piece, then it's going to be all upside. It's really hard to use on your own stuff, I think, as a combo piece because of the random milling. I think that's why the random milling is there, so you can't Vampiric Tutor, Emrakul to top of your deck, and just counter your own spell and get an Emrakul every time. But I don't know, you can still try it. Just stuff your deck full of big things and counter your own thing. Like, in theory, in Modern, if you go turn one, like Simian Spirit Guide, gut shot your opponent, counter your own gut shot with Tibalt's Trickery, if Emrakul is the top card of your deck, you're going to end up with a turn one Emrakul. Like, that is a thing that can happen. But I think it's actually really good, and we'll probably see play all the way back to Modern at least, and in Commander.
I love it. I think this card is so cool. And it's just because it's a red counterspell. So now Grixis can have more.
I don't know that you want more in Grixis.
No. The Bolus welcomes this.
I really dislike this card because I think it messes fundamentally with the color pie in the older formats. Like Seth said, you would never play this fairly. It would probably be pretty bad if you play this like a normal counterspell. But as a I Stop the Combo deck card, it is really good, right? Like, you just counter their combo win condition, they get something random, probably a cantrip or another ritual, and then you crush their face. And you are in red, you don't play blue, right? So this is the card that gets me most excited to dust off Jund and to try to get people in Modern. They're like, I combo off, I'm like, surprise, it's Tibalt's
Is Jund playable take 3?
Probably not. This is not the right game. It needs the lightning bolt off of it as well or something, but
how many people are going to do that?
You can't stop the red counterspell. Who's gonna see it coming? Like, what are you gonna do? Play around it? Like, I don't know that red should have counterspells like this.
Yeah, there is like Pyroblast if you go back to Legacy, but it is a little shocking to see a pretty good red counterspell in formats outside of Legacy. Like, that is, I don't know, we got a lot of color pie breaks. Personally, like, Raven form offends me more than Tibalt's Trickery, because I can justify Tibalt's Trickery a little bit with, like, things like Indomitable Creativity, Chaos Warp, even Pyroblast, but oh man, Raven form. We could go double this cast and go 2 hours, and I could spend the next hour ranting about Raven's form.
I guess we need to talk about Raven's form then, right? What is Raven's form?
You haven't seen Raven's form? It's blue artifact destruction. It's blue. It's the biggest color pie break. I can't believe that they're doing this. The color pie is dead.
Don't we have blue artifact destruction?
It's not blue artifact destruction. It's blue artifact exile.
Exiling, yes. No, there's this is the first. There's like things that can tap an artifact or bounce an artifact, but there's not a blue card that just exiles or kills an artifact. This is the first one ever.
I don't know. I think this one is more egregious because it's a counterspell, and a counterspell fundamentally changes matchups, right? Like, if you are playing, imagine like goblins in Legacy, right? Where you're playing like weird cards to like drop into play against a show and tell to counter the show and tell, because that's the only way you can deal with it, right? You have Pyroblast, and then you have like Ashen Rider or whatever, right? Like, now you can just play a straight up counterspell, right? It just fundamentally changes how the matchups work. And like, now every color has a counterspell almost, right? So I don't know. This is weird. I don't know if they thought this through. I think this is going to mess around with like the older formats, and Modern, I think we'll see something different. And I want to see if Jund is legit with the Tibalt's Trickery in the sideboard. Like,
actual Tibalt.
We already have the black
Tibalt tribal
counterspell
Jund
that redirects Imp's Mischief, right? But that's like very conditional because it redirects. But now we have a straight up red counterspell where you cast your Ugin and I can spin the wheel for another turn, right? And then that turn is enough for me to kill you, right?
Rakdos control.
I mean, it is definitely a color pie break, that's for sure. Although, yeah, if you're playing blue, don't play this, please.
Don't play the fair way.
No. Play this for the salt. Play this for the salt. You just just get ready to scoop up the sodium because it's gonna be great.
Or you next level, you you Tarmogoyf, and then you counter it with your Tybalt's Trickery, hoping to hit a Bloodbraid Elf into a Blightning and to kill your opponents.
Sure. Okay, Christmas Land is great all year round.
Wait, we're Jund players. We have to resort to these extreme measures to get a 50-50 chance. Like,
I mean, this is a shot though. Jund now has a shot, right? At beating some unfair decks.
no, I buy luck. I counter the card, and an Ugin comes down, and you're like, great.
Yeah, that's what I see happening most times, where it's like, I countered you into something better.
It also seems pretty sweet, kind of like people play Remand in Modern, where your opponent like cryptics your spell and you remand your own spell. You can do the same thing with this. You're like, oh, it fizzles your cryptic, and sure, maybe my card isn't good, but it's better than you drawing a card with cryptic and my spell getting countered. So I think there are situations where you can use it on your own spells fairly too, like that.
Oh, Seth. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm firing up Mono right now. we got to get back in Jund form here. We got to start the Rocky montage. Here we go. I see you counter my Tarmogoyf. I counter my own Tarmogoyf. Got him.
But wait, you mean Strangleroot Geist?
Yes.
No.
Strangleroot.
We've dropped Ren and 6, so yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're gonna disrespect the Strangleroot Geist, let it resolve, and then be confused why your down card is trying to remove this 2-drop later on in the game. All right. Last card, and then we'll call it a cast, because I think it is one of the sweetest cards in the set. We have Vornclex, Monstrous Raider. 3 versions. We have the normal version, we have a showcase version with the Kaldheim frame, and then we have Phyrexian version with all the text in Phyrexian, so basically unreadable. But 4 green, 6/6, it is a mythic. Trample Haste. If you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kind of counters on that permanent or player instead. If an opponent would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half as many of those kinds, rounded down.
So, is there an Ozolith deck yet? Like, does this make Ozolith work?
I'm actually like, I don't know what I think about this in Standard. It feels like it could work with Ozolith. It feels like it could work with like Conclave Mentor, +1/+1 counters synergies. But it's also 6 mana. And a lot of times you've already like emptied your hand by the time this would come down. I don't know. I don't know if it's good enough for those decks or not. It does seem sweet that you can insta-ultimate Planeswalkers, similar to Doubling Season. Like, play this, play a Planeswalker, double loyalty, ultimate, win the game. Seems great for Commander. And having a Phyrexian version, I expect that's going to be ridiculously expensive. But
that's the one I want. Oh, and Historic and Pioneer, they already have Mono Green Super Friends that has 6 mana pretty easily by turn 3.
Ooh, yeah, that would be scary. And then you just like instantly ultimate Ugin or something when it resolves instead of having to kill your opponent over the course of a couple of turns with Ugin. You speed your deck up significantly as if Ugin was not good enough already.
Well, yeah, and you could Nissa and then have the time of your life. You know, it's great. It's great.
Nissa would be 6/6 lands. I forgot about that. I was just thinking like Great Henge, 8 hasty damage is good enough for me.
No. The Great Henge doesn't work anymore. Blue cards can exile that, so you get a burn for that artifact now. But Nissa is forever.
6/6, and it's a 6/6 trample haste. Like those, it's actually just got like legit stats. Like if anything makes it playable in Standard, it's probably that you just fireball that into people's faces as a 6/6 trample haster.
Yeah, as if that wasn't already bad enough. You had to worry about them getting like ultimates. It's just gonna hit you the turn it comes down.
This works for Infect, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Double
so
your
Infect, 5?
double your energy.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many Infect decks are trying to cast a 6-drop, but like, yeah.
My Commander Infect decks, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Commander Infect deck. Okay, maybe. I mean, so like, this card is cool, and much like Seth said, I don't know about Standard's life, but I do know about like I think that it's Historic life and the formats behind it. I think it could be kind of fun, right? And like but like Standard, I don't know yet. But what I do want to know is this the only Praetor?
I'm guessing yes. My guess is, because I guess this is part of the story, which I haven't read, but people have been talking about, something about like, I think Kaya is fighting Vornclex or something as part of the story of Kaldheim. My guess is we're going to see the Praetor spread out over the next year and then get a Praetor set or like
Jin
a
Gitaxias
Return to Mirrodin
in Strixhaven.
That's my guess. Is they're gonna filter in, and then it'll all come together next year sometime with some Phyrexian set.
That they all work for Nico Bolas.
And Emrakul. Don't
It
forget
writes
Emrakul.
It turns out
itself.
Nico Bolas is Emrakul. It turns out
Emrakul is Nico
Emrakul is
Bolas.
Yawgmoth. We got
I'm
it.
kind of hoping
The
it-
story
I'm kinda-
writes itself, everybody.
I kind of hope it's the Innistrad set. Just poor Innistrad, like always. They deal with
Raiders,
Eldrazi,
Eldrazi.
and then the Phyrexians are there next time we visit, and they're just like
How long
constantly.
until it's Yawgmoth, MDFC backside is Jin-Gitaxias?
Ooh, man,
it's
I mean,
happening.
yeah, it probably is. Oh, I think it's a sweet card though. Do you know? Before we go, does this stop Planeswalkers from ticking up? I know Doubling Season doesn't, because like putting a loyalty counter on it is a cost, but then some people were saying that the way this is worded, it actually would interact with putting loyalty counters, like plussing your Planeswalker or your opponent doing it. Do either of you know the definitive answer for that, or do we gotta wait until we get the rules?
It doesn't get the counters, but do you think you're asking if it fizzles the ability?
Well, does it fizzle the counters?
It should, right? No? If it's a plus
Doubling
one
Season-
ability. No?
I don't know. Doubling Season doesn't double your, like if you
Oh,
plus
I
one a
guess you're
Planeswalker
right.
with Doubling Season out, you don't get 2 counters. So I wasn't sure. I actually don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're gonna have to wait for the rules.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that either. Oh man.
Well, that would be strong. Like, huh?
If it was Planeswalker hate, that would be pretty
So
spicy.
that would then just mean that they don't get anything.
Well, they come in at
Yeah.
half and then they can't tick.
Right. Yeah, they
That'd
can't
be
tick up.
hilarious.
That would make me even more excited about playing it in other formats if it was actually like, oh, you just can't really use your Planeswalkers anymore.
It would be slow on
man.
flavor because Kaya is like 5 loyalty, -3 exile. So I'm like, does your Kaya just come in and exile Vornclex? But no, Kaya comes in at 2 loyalty and can't uptick. Therefore, she has to use her little knives to try to kill Vornclex.
But you know who can come in? Actually, no, same situation. Tipple can't do that either. But Nico Eris can come in with like 100 counters, maybe shards.
Tibble can trick Vornclex and dump in something else.
No. You just play Valky and you take the Vornclex. See, problem solved.
Yep, done. All right, I think that's all the time we have. Spoilers went super long, but Wizards, as usual with their pacing, decided to drop us so many goodies. So I think we'll just hold off on Fishmail for next week. And then we'll get everyone's questions with the conclusion of the Kaldheim spoilers.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. So get in your questions for next week when hopefully we'll have some more time to answer fish mail. But on that note, I believe that brings us to the end of episode 311. Oh, I was giving you a chance to say your joke, Grim, of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So
I'm not gonna say the joke. I'm not saying the joke.
Richard, Grim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we will be back next week to talk more Kaldheim and whatever else goes down in the world of Magic. Until then, everyone, have a great week. And this is the crew signing out.